Okay, today I'd like to talk about a topic that's dear to just about everybody who's in a strength game, or I should say in sports, and that is strength. All athletes need strength. See, I have to preface some of these comments from what I'm going to be making later on. I want you all to understand that strength is one of the most important characters or qualities that an athlete needs. Without strength, or additional strength, an athlete would never be completely successful. He can be successful. Go back to the days when strength training was a no-no, and that includes me. When I was playing collegiate ball, if we were ever caught in a weight room, we were cut off the squad. You could not go to a gym. You could not lift weights. Well, today, you say, how in the world could they be that stupid? Well, this is the way it was. So today, I think we've gone a little overboard with the strength training. It's so important that everybody focuses only on strength training, and we forget so many other physical qualities and other elements that are equally important. Let's go back and clarify a little bit. We need strength. All athletes have to strength train every year, not necessarily all year long, but every year they should be gaining more strength. They should be maintaining the strength throughout the year. No question about that. But now the critical factor is, how do you strength training? What modalities are you going to be using? This becomes the key to success. Today, the emphasis seems to be on powerlifting, Olympic lifting, and bodybuilding. These are the three major modalities that you'll find in use with athletes. Even in the pros, you read about a pitcher, for example, Clayton Richard. He's a bodybuilder and probably a powerlifter. I don't know the entire program, but from all indications, because they talk about how buffed he is, and he gets more and more buffed every year, it implies that he's doing bodybuilding. Or it could be a combination. Now, in bodybuilding, the objective is to get stronger and to create more mass. These are the two consequences from bodybuilding. Take a look at bodybuilders. And forget the steroid use now. We're dealing only with the weight training that is being done. Powerlifting. This is probably the #1 method being used. Powerlifting is good. You're going to get stronger, but also bigger. But powerlifting is also too limited. You essentially are doing 3 lifts: deadlift, bench, and squat. All excellent exercises. Nothing wrong with them. All very important. But they don't, contrary to popular opinion, develop all of the muscles of the body. For example, you're doing a squat and deadlift, you're going to get a stronger back. But it's a static position of the back. It's not a dynamic strength of the back through the full range of motion. Athletes need the dynamic action, not static. So powerlifting is ignoring a very important part of the body, strong backs. Now, it gets the hamstring in the deadlift, which is good. But it's not getting total hamstring development or developing the muscle from both ends in sequence the way we would in the glute ham gastroc raise, which is now used quite a bit in powerlifting, so we can see it there. It's also used maybe in bodybuilding and extensively in weightlifting. This is for the very first use of that glute ham gastroc raise. It was with the Russians, or I should say the Soviets, way back in the days when they dominated Olympic weightlifting. And Olympic weightlifting is the 3rd method being used. And Olympic weightlifting is great. There's nothing wrong with these activities. They're phenomenal. In each one, you are going to get stronger. Many proponents of Olympic weightlifting say that it is also more specific to sports. It develops, some of the biomechanical characteristics, which in a way is true, but only for jumpers. If we take a look at the neuromuscular patterning in Olympic weightlifting, we see full leg extension. Full leg extension is good in jumping, and that's the only place. We don't see it in the other sports. So each of these methods has limitations. So we can't say one is better than the other. They all have some great points. So what we have to do in strength training is maybe do a combination of all of these three. But before that, we have to address another very specific point. And this should be the #1 method of strength training. And that's specialized exercises. Now we have to explain what this means. In a specialized exercise, you duplicate the technique involved in execution of the sports skill. So a baseball batter, where that one action that we're developing, let's say shoulder rotation, where does that shoulder rotation come from? Rotation, it uses the abdominal oblique muscles. So we have to create an exercise that duplicates the movement of the shoulders to strengthen the abdominal oblique muscles through the full range of motion as they're used in hitting, in exactly the same pattern. Now we're developing strength that will have an immediate effect on batting. This should be the main method, but only after you developed a general strength base. The general strength base is your combination: powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, bodybuilding. Use any method you want, as well as other methods. There may be a composite of some of these. Like for specificity, I use many exercises with rubber tubing. This is how I developed the active cord set. This is how we can duplicate the neuromuscular patterns involved in many skills in sports. You can't do this with powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting or bodybuilding. Impossible. So let's take a look at some of the methods. Let's use the methods that's most appropriate at the time. In the off season, athletes not playing, then let's get stronger. Use any method you want. But develop the whole body. Don't ignore certain joints or muscles. Getting all the big major muscles the way they do in powerlifting is not going to create an athlete free from injury. Because where do the injuries typically occur? The small, usually ignored muscles. So to develop the strength base, we have to develop all of the muscles of the body. This is what the off season is for. You're not going to be competing. Get strong. Make sure your body's not going to be prone to an injury. See, and once you develop this strength base, and you're doing some specificity work at the same time, because you never want to ignore the key elements of your sport or the key skills. For example, if you're a baseball pitcher, you need a break. Take a break. Don't pitch for a while. But then you want to do some pitching all year long. You never want to leave it completely. So you want to do exercises specific to the pitching on a year-round basis. If you're a runner or any athlete that has to run in a sport, you want to do exercises specific to your running in addition to this strength base, this general strength base. And as you do this, you're going to see the greatest progress in your sports performance. We're not concerned with, or you should not be concerned with, your stats. Somebody increased I increased my squat by 100 pounds. Big deal. What are you going to do with this? You can place it on a wall, or you can put it in the outhouse. How does it make you a better athlete? That's what you should be asking yourself. So this is why we don't want strength for the sake of strength. We want strength that's going to enable you to perform better as an athlete. Unless you don't consider yourself an athlete, then it's fine. Do whatever you want. But we're addressing athletes now. So if you want to be a serious athlete and make good progress in your sport, this is what it's going to take. And as I mention all the time, your main objective, the main objective of all training, is to make a better performer on the field or on the court, wherever it may be. So any exercise that is done, or any training program that is used, should be aimed at making the athlete a better performer on the field. So with this in mind, we have to see if there's any transfer of that exercise to the competitive skill. And by transfer, we really mean taking the results that the athlete gets from doing this exercise, and then these results are also going to result in the athlete being able to perform better. Now, the Russians did extensive research in this area, and they have found that the general exercises or general physical preparation does not relate to performance on the field. So the bottom line in his research, he took a look at all of the training programs and exercises that every athlete did, and he correlated them to the eventual success on the field. And it was really shocking for many people to see that most of these exercises did not transfer. Also very interesting was that the best athletes in the world did not lift the heaviest weights. Some of them were right in the middle or on the low end in terms of how much weight they lifted in particular exercises. So this tells us right away, it's not how much weight you use that's going to determine how successful you can be on the field. There are other factors involved, mainly the technique and maybe other exercises that are more specific. When we take a look at most of the exercise programs in the United States, most of them relate to general physical preparation. They're general in nature. The whole concept of specificity has still not permeated the athletic world.
Athletes will sometimes have as many, if not more, asymmetries and limitations as people who aren't fit or aren't athletic, simply because sports impose asymmetries and imbalances on the body that need to be rectified in the off-season or in preseason conditioning programs, as well as in-season maintenance. You never want to be working on your preference exercise. You want to be working on their need exercise. Very many of us are subjective in our approach, and we need to develop methodology and screening tools that protect us from our own subjectivity.
Exercise training is exercise specificity. You have to train for your sport. Of course, this sport, boxing and all grappling sports, you have to have high endurance. So we do a lot of sled work, lower and upper body sled work. Carl Sanderson, for example, he was 159-0 as a wrestler in college, but his brother came to me because he was getting beat in international matches. We work on good mornings, and this being a good morning, Churcher squats, lifting weights in the elbows like a takedown, and a lot of sled work. And I'm not saying that's why he won the Olympics, but it made him strong enough that he wasn't overpowered by the Europeans. We work on his knees.
We're going to get stronger specific to the sport or specific to your technique. And keep in mind, your technique is yours individually. You can't use somebody else's technique. Okay, I'll do this guy's exercises and I'm going to improve mine. No, you need your own technique, your own exercises that duplicate what you do in execution of that skill. And if that skill needs fine-tuning or slight changes or whatever, we'll give you exercises that will duplicate it. See, there's a whole new field of specificity.
Because I told him, I said, anyone your own body weight you should be able to pick up off that mat and throw down. And he said no one could, pretty much he could sprawl against anyone, but he wrestled at a high state against high-level wrestlers, international wrestlers. And the guy would, every time he tried single double, he'd get Matt down. He said, how do you do it? And the guy goes, I don't know. All I know is I train my lower back all the time. So I hit Matt right in the head. That strength does matter for MMA. So we make him do a lot of one-leg good mornings with bands where his legs out like this, kind of like going in for a single or a double. He pulls heavy sleds while with weight vests and ankle weights, and a lot of times with a band bar. So he's got the band bar in his hands. Outside, I just did a DVD about power sled working, and you use a sled as grappling motions, pommeling, anything you want. So you're conditioning while you're getting stronger at the same time. Because you only got so much time in the day to do your jiu-jitsu, wrestle, Muay Thai, and so forth. And so that way, when you do strength and conditioning, I combine them at the same time. The second trip, we normally do about 10 trips, basically 60 yards. You know, it's a sprint, he's got to stabilize, muscular endurance, cardio endurance, anaerobic endurance, balance. And you can use upper body with the sled as well, and you do not gain body weight. You know you have strength, and on the other hand, you have conditioning. The sled is both at the same time. I don't want anybody sitting on their ass doing that work when they can be out here doing this. You can pommel with a sled. You can do anything that your sport requires with a sled.
Один из эффективных приемов борьбы – бросок прогибом. Чтобы суметь его выполнить, нужно научиться работать руками в координации с туловищем, подводить грудь рывками под грудь партнера. Необходимо руками плотно прижимать его, не давая ему сползти. Важно постоянно удерживать высокое положение туловища и бросать прогибом без подбива. Здесь закрепляется навык длительного напряжения мышц спины и рук, повышается устойчивость. Если это упражнение многократно повторять, то у борца развивается специальная скорость, необходимая для броска прогибом. Один из эффективных приемов борьбы, так называемый задний пояс, бросок прогибом обхватом туловища сзади. Его сложность в том, что соперник находится в низком партере, и его надо вначале поднять на достаточную для броска высоту. То есть нужны сильные и одновременно гибкие ноги и спина. Вот простое, но эффективное упражнение. Согнуться надо как можно ниже, выполнять максимальное число повторов в скоростно-силовом режиме. Для более подготовленных борцов полезно такое упражнение. Его также надо исполнять активно, в достаточно быстром темпе. Любой прием начинается с плотного захвата, требующего сильных предплечий и кистей. Вот некоторые скоростно-силовые упражнения для укрепления рук. Здесь развивается цепкость, сила мышц сгибателей и разгибателей рук. В таком движении укрепляются мышцы, участвующие в обоюдном крестовом захвате. В упражнениях с резиной работа более плавная, в противовес резким движениям с тяжестями. Это и профилактика травм мышц плечевого пояса, и повышение их тонуса. Несомненно, каждый, кто занимается борьбой, хоть раз попадал во время схватки в критическую ситуацию, на мост. Здесь важно терпеть, выдержать длительное статическое напряжение. И, конечно, нужны умения и сильные мышцы шеи, туловища, ног. Упражнения, как правило, даются в конце занятия, на фоне сильного утомления. Здесь развивается уже не только скоростно-силовые качества, но и специальная силовая выносливость. Тренер дает задание на количество повторений. Повысить атлетизм борца, привить навык скоростно-силовой работы. На штанге сейчас 80 килограммов. Собственный же вес спортсмена 57 килограммов. Другое движение, где требуется взрывная сила. Подъем штанги на грудь. Вес снаряда 100 килограммов. Намного превышает вес любого из будущих соперников борца на ковре. Специфическое для борцов упражнение Многие броски начинаются с подъема соперника из портера, для чего надо низко наклониться. Упражнение развивает необходимую для этого силу мышц спины и ног. Специальные упражнения скоростно-силового характера, как правило, модулируют тот или иной прием борьбы. Посмотрим некоторые упражнения, соотнесенные с определенными бросками. В таком упражнении точно моделируется направление броска, а значит тренируются соответствующие группы мышц. Движение имитирует бросок, поэтому борец не просто накачивает мускулы, а совершенствует навык технического действия. В упражнении с гирей более широкая амплитуда движений. Здесь возможно и большее количество повторений, ведь гири легче штанги. Но надо помнить об осторожности и быть максимально собранным, чтобы ненароком не нанести себе травму.
And the reason we don't have ligaments and tendon problems is because at a bare minimum we do 200 leg curls a day with bands. And remember, they work just like your ligaments and tendons. They stretch and contract. And we do during the week 300 reps in the tricep push down out of the gym for the elbows, so we never have that problems. Most guys here will do about 200 reps, 2 sets of 50 twice a week in the good mornings for the lower back. So we use bands like that. We do real fast curling motions and so forth, and pec motions, so we stimulate the soft tissue, not the muscle.
Primary goals are for any group. If everyone listening today, I'm sure, is an exercise professional that prescribes exercise some way, shape, or form. And if you're an exercise professional, your major goal has to be to reduce injuries. The first rule of any exercise professional should be, first, do no harm. Don't screw them up. I mean, we've got these individuals, whether you're a high-level athlete or whether you're just a weekend warrior or whether you're, a person sitting at the desk all day that wants to get in a little bit better shape. First, don't do anything that's going to put them at higher risk. And I think in doing that, we need to first understand, just like anything, if we're trying to reduce your risk of something, we need to understand what the risk factors are. We got these compensations, we get these daily activities, poor training, previous injuries, creating this whole this situation where everything is working off of each other, and we're basically creating movement pattern dysfunctions. And these movement pattern dysfunctions are what we have to get away from. We have to look and think, okay, we can't just say the person's moving great, let's push them. We may push them too far, which is poor training. Previous injuries is going to throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. But then we also have to address, which most of us, even us, people, me included, what do we do most of the day? Most of our clients, most of us. I mean, I sit at the computer quite a bit of the day, typing and answering emails and doing certain things. And I'm sure a lot of you all listen to do the same things. But those are daily activities that we have to address. If my typical job forces me to turn a certain way or forces me to do certain things, those types of overuse situations create compensations, create asymmetries that may be a problem. If I'm sitting all day at a desk and I develop poor posture, giving you a few corrective exercises may not address that issue. So we have to look at daily activities, nutritional habits, things like this that may also create or lead to some problems. So we have to think about all these things and how these things may lead us to movement pattern issues, because it does go back to movement pattern problems. We screen our freshmen coming in August every year. Well, by doing that, we got it down to a science. It's very consistent. Everybody's on the same page. We know what to expect. And that really helps us try to avoid certain things that can fall through the cracks. So that logical approach of screening them out, making sure, just like going back to our risk factors, let's put them in categories first. Who are the people that have the biggest problems? Then let's go and test those people out. Let's figure out, okay, they've got some significant limitations in this area. Let's figure out what's creating the limitation. And once we do that, let's assess the situation and figure out what's the best category to put them in. Do they need to be training at a high level? Do they need to be doing some corrective work? Or do they need to see a physician? And for me, that's many times the way I approach it, because the screen is not about corrective exercise. The movement screen in itself is about figuring out, what does this person need? Too often your individual is going to come in and tell you what they want. That's easy. Everybody's going to tell you what they want to do. And many times what they want to do is what they're good at. It's our job as professionals to tell you what you need to do. And many times what you need to do is going to be out of your comfort zone. And that's what this approach, and that's what trying to create this baseline is all about. Try to correctly identify what is the dysfunction. And when I say dysfunction, it's basically a visual representation of putting people in these categories. This pyramid has become pretty popular for me just because it's a great way for me to create a visualization and how to explain this type of model to many of my athletes. Many times I'll present to my athletes at the university that I'm at, and this is what I'll show them. This first thing I'll show them is, listen, it's not that we are telling you not to lift weights, not to focus on how much you can lift or how fast you can run. That's always got to be part of what we need to do. That's performance. That's that physical capacity or performance-related area we want to improve. However, what we've got to do first is make sure you've got the foundation to lay good performance, good strength, good power. If I've got a car and I take a little bit of air out of that right front tire, I can still drive the car. But the faster I drive it, the more likely I'm going to be to either blow the tire out or hit the wall. So what I've got to do is, first and foremost, make sure the brakes work, make sure the alignment's there, make sure I got all the air and all the tires and it's the right pressure. Because if I don't, I can still do certain things. And here's the other thing. Many people, especially athletes, are very good at hiding those minor problems. And that's what we got to do. You know, just having a little bit of air out of the front tire may not be a big deal right now, especially for an 18-year-old kid. But the more power they put in that engine, the more stuff they do, the more likely they are to have a problem later on. And I think first and foremost, let's just check under the hood. Let's check everything out. And then let's look at laying some stuff on top of it. So just like I said earlier, when I first kicked this thing off, we're just simply trying to put them in categories. And this is a good way to just represent those categories, is making sure, hey, movement's the foundation. Do we need to work on that or not? And if we don't, great. Let's just make sure that we always go back and check it so movement patterns aren't becoming a problem based off the performance we're laying on top of it.
Hello, I'm Louis Simmons here at Westside Barbell. You know, there's a lot of concussions in football, more than there definitely should be. But I know football players anymore never train their neck. Neither do wrestlers. You know, in football today, there's millions of concussions. It starts in junior high, high school, right on to college, and professional. I think it's ridiculous. You know, 20 years ago, you didn't have to ask the guy what they did. You knew he was a football player by the size of his neck, or a wrestler. Those days seem to be gone. Strength coaches are afraid to train the neck or the lower back. Those are two essential areas of the spine that must be trained. You don't need an $1,800 neck machine. All you need is a neck harness and a band, and do your own neck work like this. There's also manuals like wrestlers do. I hope you're familiar with that. But here's how we train our neck a lot. Basically like this, or statics, or like a twist. Is this someone's trying to crank your neck, give you a neck crank? And now I just do it for long periods of time. I don't count. I do it all by feel. Sideways. Both sides, of course. And backwards. And just hold. Just hold static. And twist if you like. I like a lot of twisting. Someone try to twist your head off in grappling, you need to be able to sustain that. All right, this is just a simple way to build necks. It basically probably costs $20. So good luck and try training your neck. Here we are, Big Chris. We're going to do some bangles. This is one of the best ways to build a neck. This is common for wrestlers, MMA, but a lot of people don't know it. You must train your neck. All right. Then hold me statically. Hold. Now he powered up, and he'll force me down. Powered up, force me down. Right now. We'll work the backside. All right, I power up, he'll force me down. I power up, force me down. Then of course the sides. Remember you have 4 sides of the neck. Ready? Force me down. I'll force up. Force me down. Force up. Okay. And of course the other side. Force up. Force down. Force up. Force down. Right. All right, there's the manuals. And we'll throw one last thing. We'll show the neck bridges. Now Joe's demonstrating neck bridges. This is forward. He'll also do it to the backwards. Very good, Joe. Show me the reverse way. Okay, Joe. Good. You know, turn it to lower and then raise up on your hands like that. Got it. On your hip. Alright, here's another way of doing neck bridges. Perfect. Now roll back and forth. See this? Tremendous for the neck. Again, the 2 vital areas of the spine is the neck and lower back. For some reason, street coaches in America forgot to train these 2 vital areas. If you don't train the neck, you've got concussions and head injuries. You don't train the lower back, you have hamstring injuries. So this is out for West Side, over and out.